Awesome, thank you.
All right, it is 1:31. We will call the meeting to order. Sonoma County Technical Advisory Committee. And as always, we will start with introductions. And I will just run through names, but feel free to jump in. From SCTA, we have Drew Nichols, Shauna Gauze, David Ruperta, James Cameron, and Chris Barney. From Rohnert Park, we have Edie Takata, Sonoma County Parks, Elizabeth Tyree, Craig Scott from the city of Cotati, Ken Eichstad from the city of Petaluma, John Jay from the city of Sebastopol. Welcome, John. We have Alejandro Perez from the city of Windsor, Oriana Hart from the city of Sonoma, and Nancy Adams from the city of Santa Rosa. With that, I don't see any public to make public comment. Onward to approval of meeting minutes. Does anyone have any comments, additions on last month's meeting minutes? I do have one. It appears from the chart that I was absent, but I think I was there at that last meeting. I was quoted somewhere in the minutes saying something brilliant, I'm sure.
I might have confused it with the 2 meetings before, so my apologies on that, Chair Zimmer.
No worries. With that change, does anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, I will. Santa Rosa.
Second, Craig Scott, Cotati.
Thank you, guys. Moving on, SB 743 update. Chris?
Yeah, just a couple of things to update the group on. So the first is the status of the VMT mitigation and reduction calculator project. So we actually met earlier this week on Tuesday, and Fair and Peers provided a demo on the draft VMT reduction tool. So making some good progress on that. So I know Nancy's on the steering committee for that, but the steering committee is actually digging into the tool now, and comments through June 17th. If anyone else is interested in checking out the tool in its draft form, let me know. Or if you have someone on the steering committee in your jurisdiction, you can get the link from them as well. But yeah, it's looking good. There's a lot in there to kind of work through, but we're making progress on that. We're looking at implementing any recommended changes after the 17th and rolling out the final tool, hopefully after the July 28th TAC meeting. So looking at doing a training session and demonstration for the tool after that, and then getting the tool and documentation and a recording of the training session up on our website. So making good progress on that project. So one other SB 743 item, many of you have probably already seen this or seen the invite from MTC, but MTC is hosting a SB 743 policy adoption technical assistance program. And they've scheduled the first session for Sonoma County on June 21st from 1 to 3. Basically, this is a probably 6 to 7 session training curriculum they've put together. They have Fair and Peers and I think Kimley Horn on the consultant training group there. The first session is going to be covering the basics of SB 743, talking about VMT, introducing the consultant team, and providing an overview of the OPR guidance. And then future sessions are going to be going into more and more detail. So yeah, I just wanted to make that announcement in case any of you have not heard or received that announcement from MTC. Again, if you'd like to participate and haven't seen that, let me know and we can get that contact and information over to you. I did see a hand. Sorry if I missed that before. Nancy, did you have a question?
No, no questions. Just a good summary, Chris. Just for the benefit of those who aren't on the steering committee, I think it's coming along fairly well, this calculator tool. You know, Chris and the consultant team has heard suggestions from us locals just to, you know, make sure that it's clear for everyone. It's pretty complicated and very technical. So, you know, we want to make sure that all the jurisdictions have as much, you know, clarification around things and descriptions around elements of the tool. So I'll just stop there. But it's good. It looks good.
Yeah, thanks, Nancy. One thing that we are gonna try and put together is a flow chart on, you know, the steps you should take when analyzing the MT for a project, and then having a pretty top level information sheet that you can use to kind of gather all the information that you need before starting to work with the VMT reduction tool.
Asphalt over and over and over again as it falls, but
So that's it for me.
I don't have any
Hey,
photographs.
Steven,
Muted.
Whoa, somebody was unmuted.
All right, thank you for that, Chris. Not seeing any other questions. We will move on to item 5, the Measure M invoicing and obligation status. Shauna?
Chair, this is in your packet every month. It is a status update. We show those projects that are either more than 6 months out for an invoice or that were scheduled to receive funding this year and haven't yet appropriated in red. If you are approaching 6 months, then we ask that we show that the projects are in yellow, and we ask that you try to invoice every 6 months at a minimum. That's it for me for that item, Mr. Chair.
Okay, assuming there are no questions at the moment, we will move on to item 6, also a standing item, the 6.1 inactive federal obligation status.
Sure thing, thank you. So the federal obligation status, I think, is pretty standard, and I think that Edie reported that they are off of, since the printing of this agenda packet, Rohnert Park is off of the inactive obligation list. So rather than publicly flog just Nader, I think that we can just approve or just move on and recognize that I need a status update from Nader on the projects that are listed.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Okay, I'm looking at the current one that they posted on Caltrans, and I can report on the ER 40A0102, 103, and 104. The same reporting. An invoice has been submitted 2 weeks ago. The ER 32L0576. No updates since I gave you, and I gave you the de-obligation letter. So Caltrans should remove it from their list. I have no idea why not. 177, the PRLO 59177. Caltrans issued to us the E76 in July of last year. We advertised it. We had to re-advertise because we didn't get the interest, but however, the project has been awarded in February of 22. So an invoice should be coming up soon. 138, please accept my apology. Staff, when they sent the justification to Caltrans, they did not include you. I will forward that to you as well. We submitted the justification, and it has more information in it when you read it. Still, the status of it, we have zero obligated dollar amount on it on the balance. 144, an invoice was submitted to Caltrans along with the bar. It's under review. 156, 154, and 153. We responded. Currently, we are in the process of responding to Caltrans. The package is in my email box, and I anticipate to send it by the end of the week, probably by tomorrow at the latest, for all three. 178 is one of those mitigation measures that we are working on it. I mean, I don't think so. We awarded anything yet, but we will be looking into to see how we can invoice in order to avoid the inactive list. So it's 12 out of 13. One short of my lucky number 13.
Great, thank you.
I will send you, actually, I was reading it of an email. I will be sending you the email of the status if you didn't copy everything and you don't have to listen to the tape again, to my ugly voice again. Thank you.
Okay, with that, a very polite public flogging, we will move on to 6.2, the OBAG 3 update. Is that David?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I believe we sent out emails to everyone on our data requests that we have shown in your packet here for scoring your SCTA funding program projects. I've gotten answers back from a few folks, but just as a reminder, as shown in the table, we need the data to be able to do the greenhouse gas calculations, emissions calculations for your projects. So for each type of project, whether it's pedestrian, bicycle, or a new signal or turn lane project, there's different data needs so that Chris Barney from our staff can crunch the numbers. So we'd greatly appreciate it if you get us any data that we need by June 1st. And also just checking in to see if anyone has moved forward on their projects using other funding. I believe the City of Petaluma has the McDowell project out to bid right now, but just want to check in to see what the status is of people's projects, if you're waiting for state referral funds or if you found other ways to fund your projects.
I'll start. We are not moving forward with any of the projects without the funding.
I'm sorry, what was the question, David? You cut out about.
We were just wondering if anyone is moving forward on their projects using their own funds at this time.
So just to clarify, the project applications that we submitted for the funding program.
Correct.
You know, I think there may be one in Santa Rosa, the B Street one, and I don't recall whether or not we still included that that little piece there in downtown, but we did get some ASIC funding through IIG. So I'll have to go back and check that out. But other than that, we've not gone anywhere with any of the other projects.
David, this is Alejandro with Town of Windsor. We have started on our project for the 101 pedestrian undercrossing. We've started a little 30% design. We're working with an engineer right now with that.
Great. And are you moving forward on the DEER process for that, or is Caltrans going to do a full PSR?
As well, DEER.
Okay, great.
David, this is Ken Eichstead, City of Petaluma. So the North McDowell is out to bid, and you know, the directive that I've got is get it done. And so we're gonna, you know, we've got a base bid that we can go ahead and fund internally, and it's possible that we might, you know, look for additional funding for the bid alternatives, but that's going. And I am for River Trail applying for ATP Cycle 6. So thanks.
Thank you.
Edie?
We had on our among our 5 bike ped master plan update, and with the announcement of SCTA getting the planning grant, that may change. You know, but I guess we'll see when that process shakes out and how that's going to happen. Whether we might just need the extra funding to do something on top of the planning effort led by SCTA. So no change yet, but it may change after we know more.
Well, thank you all for your updates. And again, if you could get any of the data that were requested to us by June 1st, we greatly appreciate it.
David, if I could ask you on the OBAG 3, what is the rough schedule on that?
So for our funding recommendations overall for not only OBAG, but the rest of the funding program, I'll turn it over to Shauna to talk about the schedule.
So we are in the process of scoring all of the applications, and we expect to bring a draft list to the TAC next month. And then the following month, that same draft list will go to the board. And then between July and September, we will be doing a lot more outreach. We will bring a proposed final list to the TAC in August. And then we will do the final list to the board in September. And once those are approved, then that will all go to MTC in the end of September. MTC will take from October through December to do their own scoring and propose their own list for funding. And that staff recommendation will go to the commission in December. And then the commission will vote on it in January at their January meeting. After the January meeting, we will determine which projects got funded with OBAG, and then we will make a final decision on the rest of the funding sources that we have discretion over. So that will happen in February.
Excellent, very helpful. Sorry if that was a repeat of an email, so it was great. No other questions? Are we ready to move on? Item 6.3, federal obligation history.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This one is a biannual update that we provide to the board. So the intent is to bring this to the TAC to make sure that these are accurate. It is a list of mostly federal. I think there are some HSIP funds reported because MTC tracks HSIP as well. So we track those through MTC. So we are asking that the TAC look them over. I have already received, excuse me, already received an update from Healdsburg. Thank you, Larry. Sorry, excuse me. A little tickle. I've already received an update from Healdsburg to update the list because their RFAs were submitted on the two project, or I think it was just one project that was listed as not having been submitted yet. So this same report will go to the board next month in June. So we want to make sure that the TAC has weighed in on it before we take it to the board. So please let us know no later than the end of this week if there is anything that needs to be updated on this list for your jurisdiction.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
You good, Shauna? You need a minute?
No, I'm all right. It was just a little tickle.
All right, onward. And if anyone has questions on that now, if not, talk to Shauna. 6.4 MTC local streets and roads and the PDOG announcements.
This is mostly informational, Mr. Chair. It is just, there's a lot of information that comes out in between the quarterly meetings that the local streets and roads, the joint local streets and roads programming and delivery working group sessions. So want to make sure that everybody is aware of all of the things that are going on. If there are action items that are needed, there are a lot of new funding sources that are coming available. So we're trying to make sure that all of the jurisdictions are aware of that. There's a call out for HSIP. There's a call out for the Safe Roads for All, which is the federal safety program. So we just want to make sure that everybody is aware of all of the different things that are going on.
All right. Moving on, 6.5, also probably in the same vein, the local assistance training day of June 7th.
Yeah, I do like to make sure that everybody is aware of the local assistance trainings that are available because they are so valuable and because there is particularly in the last 2 years, a lot of turnover with staff. So we find that the more training you have, the easier it is to get yourself through the federal process. Since we have the federal process coming up on us imminently, want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to train before they're deep in the middle of it. So I do recommend, even as a refresher, that you go through some of those federal aid training courses. There are also a number of other courses that they offer that can be very valuable. So if you are not signed up for the local assistance announcements that come out, please do so. I cannot recommend that enough. I get them all the time, but there's a lot of really good and very valuable information, and most of them are free. So, you know, it just costs you your time. I know we're all busy, but that's training that is invaluable.
Okay, next up is the HSIP cycle 11, and then the Safe Roads for All, which is a relatively new thing, correct?
Yeah, that's coming out of the bipartisan infrastructure bill. So, you know, we saw that come down. Everybody saw that bill pass, and everybody was like, "Woo! All this new money." And then it takes a while for FHWA to do the rulemaking and to provide the guidance and to do the calls for projects, because it takes a while for the programs to actually get defined. So we're finally coming down that road where things are starting to become available. So as they come out, we will continue to bring that information to the TAC.
Okay, and I did notice that there were some Safe Routes for All training scheduled. I signed up for a couple of things because I have a bunch of questions about it already. There are some good links in the agenda for all that Shauna just talked about, and then onward to 6.7, Buy America Preference Implementation Guidance. Before we get there, looks like Ken has his hand raised.
Yes, Chair Zimmer, I just, the Safe Streets for All, is SCTA doing any coordination on that, or is just distributing the information? Each of the, you know, municipalities will kind of go on it on their own. So
that's my expectation so far, unless we were to get some sort of direction from the TAC. And I don't see, because we are not part of the screening process for that. We could, but right now the bandwidth is pretty tight. So because we're trying to do the funding program that we already have, and that wasn't part of it. So we could certainly incorporate it into the next cycle if that was something that people were interested in. But right now, we're just encouraging all of the jurisdictions to be aware of them and to apply for funding on their own.
yeah, I'll just say, you know, we're got 5 years of this, you know, effort going on, and so, you know, however, I guess the TAC can find to kind of coordinate it, and we, you know, work together in a, you know, cohesive way so we don't all have to kind of keep, you know, learn stuff that somebody else has already learned. So however that sort of organically happens, but I think just to be aware of it. So, you know, where there might be efficiencies. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Ken. Good question. On to 6.7, Buy American Preference Implementation Guidance.
So this was included as an informational item as well. It was discussed at one of the recent statewide meetings that we attend, and I was unable to attend myself, but David was there. So if there are questions, I would hand it over to him.
Just to add a little bit, so it used to be for Buy America, it only applied to certain materials, and now it seems like it applies to everything. And the waiver process last few years got much more strict. And with this new executive order, it's getting even stricter. So FHWA is working with the Office of Management and Budgets to determine what changes there may be to their existing Buy America waiver process. But I think it's something that you got to think about upfront for your federally funded projects. And one in particular I'm thinking of is the City of Santa Rosa's bicycle pedestrian overcrossing project. The cables for that suspension pedestrian bridge are not manufactured in the United States, so it will definitely need a waiver, and that could be a very long process. I just want to bring this to you for your attention, and so you're aware of it going forward.
Thanks, David. And I see that there's a big document in the agenda for that, which I have not yet read, but will. No other questions? We will move on to the SCTA RCPA board meeting of June 13th.
Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay.
It is indeed. Thank you, Drew. So on the consent calendar, we have the Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition appropriation for this year's Bike Month, also known as Bike to Wherever Days. And we will also be including an appropriation in the Rohnert Park Mitigation Program for the County of Sonoma, and awarding a contract for, or candidate list for the request for proposals that we put out recently, RFQ, that we put out recently for program management and project development services. We interviewed a number of firms, and we are selecting some, and we will be releasing that list and asking the board to approve it in June. On the regular items, we have, as I mentioned before, the federal delivery history that I just talked about earlier on this agenda. And then we'll also be talking about the strategic implementation plan. We brought that to you last month just to make sure that everybody had seen it. We have gone through and updated it. We are in the process of working back and forth with the graphic artist to make sure that that gets updated and is ready to go. So that will, in its final draft form, go to the board, and then we'll be seeking board approval for it, at which point we will send it to the printer and have it posted online as the final update to the strategic implementation plan, formerly known as just the strategic plan for Measure M. Happy to take any questions about those items. I generally don't talk about, oh yeah, that's right. Thank you, Drew. We are also looking to adopt an equity policy.
Hey, Shauna, question. Is the SCTA now going to regularly have their legislative items, bills on the agenda? I know that's something that's kind of just recently started to populate the agenda. So is that going to be a reoccurring item on their agenda?
I think it is. Yeah, it seems to be of interest to the board. So we continue to bring them as things get updated.
So a question came up just in a totally different conversation about bike and ped potential legislation. And I don't know what kind of, how wide of a net you cast in terms of bills that you're tracking, but I don't know if there's any here relative to bike and peds. And so I wonder if that's something that you are going to think about in the future, adding to the list. So just a question, and maybe not for you to answer, but maybe Suzanne, whatever.
Yeah, seems likely. I don't have information on, I mean, I know that we're tracking things like what the tolling item that's going for Highway 37, we're tracking that one, we're tracking. So there are a lot of them, and they're, I mean, they're big, but you can see that they're only listed by number rather than by topic. So
and I can add that Suzanne is still reviewing the bills that were discussed previously at the CP PAC meeting. There's a long list of bills that aren't shown on our agenda yet that are all mostly related to bicycles, but some also for transportation funding. So our board hasn't taken position on those yet, so they may or may not be on the next board agenda.
Thanks. Now I'm remembering where I heard it. Thanks, David.
That's it for me, Mr. Chair.
Excellent, thank you. Item number 8, other business comments or announcecements? Does anyone have anything?
I do. So we our CIP team is really struggling. We had recruited and made an offer to an individual, and he actually was I think the last TAC meeting, Mike Prince, and he actually worked for the city for Santa Rosa Water, and then he left, and then he came back to take on this position in TPW as a deputy. But we received a notice, I think last week, that he is going to take and move back to water, oddly enough. So it's great for water, but it now leaves another to the long list of vacancies that we have in CIP. So if you know anyone who's interested, just spread the word. But yeah, we have a lot of vacancies in our CIP engineering team. So
Nancy, did he go to Santa Rosa Water?
sorry, he did, and oddly enough, took his position that he had when he left. So he's right back to where he was. Yeah. But it's good, you follow your passions, right? So it's all good.
Yeah, hiring is difficult. We've been struggling. Considering dropping the PE requirement at the associate level, it's been so bad.
Oh, wow, it's crazy.
Well, probably going to hire or advertise for project managers rather than engineers, kind of the same result. I have one other question, perhaps.
I have a question for you before you move on. So how will you fill that hole then? Will you just lean on consultants, or are you going to be signing everything, stamping it for your own designs, that sort of thing?
I think that was to you, Nancy.
No, I was asking you, Mr. Chair, because you.
Yeah, I didn't think that was for me. Yeah.
You were saying you were going to go to project managers rather than.
Well, no, we still have engineers, so the project managers would just work under the senior or principal engineer. And filling at that lower level, it's really hard to get that somewhat experienced engineer. You can get the entry levels and you can get the more advanced people, but the ones in the middle are really hard to find these days.
Thank you.
I do have one other question. There was talk about a pedestrian ped and bike plan that SCTA was taking the lead on. Is that going to be a Janet question?
Are we talking about the active transportation plan?
Yes, which would be, isn't that the equivalent of what was a bike and ped?
I think it fills a slightly different niche, but yes, it is. We received a Caltrans grant, and so we will be moving forward with developing a countywide plan.
Okay.
And it is the lead on that. Yes.
Yeah, so the countywide active transportation plan, or CAP plan as we're calling it, is being managed by Dana Toure from our staff. And I believe the funding will become available in November, and she's working on the scope of work for a consultant, and we'll be working closely with the CDPAC for the work on that project. And I believe she has a request out to have everyone send in their updated GIS files for their existing bikeway facilities, if there's been any updates since the last update in 2019. And we're really looking forward to updating this plan for the first time in 8 years.
Yeah, that would be great. So it's going mostly through the planning committee, but we'll probably get some updates as you go.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, thank you, David. Does anyone have any other things to discuss before we adjourn?
No, just hold on to your hats this year, guys. We got a bunch of asphalt getting slung around all over the county. So if you get stuck in traffic, our apologies, but have some patience and, hold on to your Slurpee cups and don't throw it at our flaggers and stuff like that, because we're going to have most of East County with our PG&E settlement project. And then the the 22 PPP project is mushing stuff all over the place. So yeah, especially be careful going over if you're over on Old Redwood Highway or Mark West Springs Road. It's going to be fussy for a while when we're in there because there's a couple encroachment projects in the middle of that too. So, and PG&E is doing a electrical berry project on Mark West and Porter Creek. So if you like that route going over to Napa, or you have to go that way, maybe try Calistoga Road instead this year.
I'm sure everyone is going to appreciate the great work that you guys are getting done and not complain about the traffic impacts.
That always happens. Yes, they're always very, very appreciative.
Good for the heads up, though.
Yeah. Yeah, our website has those projects on there. So if you're interested, you can snoop around and see what's what and where. I don't think we publish the contractors' schedules, but if you're curious, we can get you copies if you want to know that what it is.
Get the sweeping.
Say that again, Shauna.
I said, don't forget the sweeping. There's always a lot of gravel.
Yeah, especially the corners, right?
Right.
Yep.
Thanks, Steve. Anyone else have any comments? We are hereby adjourned at 2:08. Thank you, everyone. See you in a month.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
very much. Appreciate it.